Hey everyone, we are live for a Teach Better Conference Speaker Spotlight, where we get to feature the incredible voices that are going to be part of our upcoming Teach Better 2022 conference. For all the conference details, in case you are still looking to finalize your information, that is all over at teachbetterconference.com. You can see the full schedule. You can register for any tickets that we still have yet to sell. You can see all of our sponsors. You can see our podcasters. You can connect with our speakers. It's just a ton of information there. So feel free to head that direction and make sure that you have all the details you need before the main event coming up here October 14th and 15th. We have an incredible speaker that we're going to be featuring in this conversation, one that many of you know and love. You follow her, you have her books, and I am confident you already have her session on your schedule, but just in case, we'll be talking through some details. So we'll be right back.
So right now, I want to know if you're ready to teach better.
That's the whole mission of this weekend.
Just being here ready to learn and grow and come together like this is awesome.
What are those small changes that can make you better tomorrow than you were today?
All the amazing speakers we have here, wow.
So we have a ton of people here who are published authors, who are writing about education.
Let's get out there and teach better.
Hey everyone, we are getting to feature an incredible speaker being featured for our 2022 Teach Better Conference. Rachelle, how you feeling so far this morning?
I'm feeling, well, I'm feeling great. Although at one point today, I was like, somebody said, yeah, it's Monday. And I went, it's only Monday?
I know.
But, yeah, it's just like, but the time, it's just going by so quickly. Like even at school, certain days, just like some days do drag without a doubt, but there are some days where even, the students always think, I think that teachers are just so excited to go to school. Like, I'm just here. I can't wait. Like we have those moments too, but like the thing that pulls us through is those interactions with the kids and things and just like having that fun. And so today it was kind of like the joke about, oh yeah, like, isn't it awesome? And it's like Wednesday and they're like, it's Monday. And then it just kind of went from there. But we got through it together. I was like, see, and then now you get to come back tomorrow. And tomorrow is not going to be Monday, but it's been a good day. Good day. We have a good week coming up. So how about you?
I love it. Hopeful, while it's been a crazy day, still eager. Tomorrow will be a good one. I like that approach. My day's been good, but I kind of felt the same way as you. We logged on. We're kind of talking about this before we went live. It was like a Monday that felt like a Wednesday, and it was just a crazy day. It flew by. I was so excited to come live with you right now, and I knew that was going to be a highlight of my calendar. And then I looked at my clock, and it was like already 2:30. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, it's the end of the day almost. So it's been nuts. For some of our friends here that are popping in to hear about you, I know so many of them already follow you, have your books, collaborate with you on a consistent basis. But in case we have a new face here, would you mind sharing a little bit about what you do in education, kind of who you are?
Yeah, well, I do a lot of different things, which it's kind of funny sometimes because you know this too. Somebody might ask you what you do and you tell them, and I go, but don't you do this? And you're like,
oh yeah,
I forgot about it. I forgot about that. Because sometimes we just try different things too. So the short of it is that I teach full time and I teach Spanish and a STEAM course to 8th graders, all about emerging technology, but a lot about digital citizenship because like they really need to build those skills. And it's a lot of fun to, interact with them. And just to think back to when I was in 8th grade, we didn't have those things. Like they'll come into the classroom and I have a rotary phone or I got a pager and they tried them. I'm like, these things are awesome. I'm like, they weren't awesome when I was in the 8th grade, but it's okay. So, I teach full time and then I also do consulting full time with some different ed tech companies. I do some blogging. I've written, like you said, I've written a couple of books and I'm also an attorney, which comes in handy in a lot of different ways, both in the classroom and outside the classroom too. So, but I just love learning. I mean, I always have. And, I don't know, there's just something new and exciting every day that we learn and take away from whatever we do, even if we're not in education. I mean, you're always learning, making mistakes and then learning.
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of the beauty of education, the beauty of being a learner is those failure moments, those aha moments, those success moments. I have to tell you, I know we're supposed to be talking about your session at the Teach Better Conference, but I literally cannot be live with you and not mention that I myself sat in your session for a completely different conference years and years and years and years and years ago. I couldn't even tell you what year it was, way before COVID, pre-COVID story. And you drastically impacted how I use technology in my classroom. And so I feel very selfish. Like I feel like I'm your cheerleader for your sessions, where I'm like, you have to go because you're going to learn so much, because I learned so much just in that one session, much less all of the other information that you share. I'm so excited for our community to hear from you.
Well, you are too kind, and thank you for saying it. But I do remember, and I think that has got to be like 7 years ago. It has to be.
Forever ago. And I know that it was all on, and I think it was a short session. It was all on VR.
Yeah.
And I was a middle school math teacher at the time. And you literally just threw out 300 resources to say, if you want to try, here's all the options. It was like a buffet. And I was like, I'm going to try this one. And I used it then my entire career. I still recommend it to educators that I could do work with now, to say, like, these are cool resources you can incorporate into any content area.
Yeah. That's what's fun about it. I just did this past weekend some sessions too. And it's like, sometimes you feel like you're overwhelming because there are so many things out there. But then the part of me is like, well, I would hate for somebody to come and sit in my session and be like, oh my gosh, I totally knew everything about this, but I don't feel comfortable getting up and leaving. You can always get up and leave. You can always walk and go, because like it's meant to be for your experience. But I want to give as many possibilities that are, across the board for elementary, for people who like me would say, well, I'm just a Spanish teacher. I can't do this. I'm just a third grade teacher. I can't. Like, you absolutely can, especially when it comes to those VR and AR tools. And so I get excited for the sessions and the learning that happens and the questions that I get that make me go out and find, because I'm like, I'm not the expert. I just like to try a lot of different things. And so, yeah, so it's fun. I enjoy it.
And I do have to say, and I'm sure you do this in all of your sessions, so we'll need to get to specifics here in a minute, but something I really valued was your eagerness to share as many resources as possible, both paid options, free options, depending on what educators were willing to commit to. And then we just got to play. And I really appreciated that you really thought of your session in the audience's eyes. How can I make this a valuable, fun learning experience? I think that's invaluable, especially when you go to a conference and you want those actionable takeaways. So tell us a little bit about what you're presenting at Teach Better this year.
That's a great question. No,
you have no idea.
Well, it usually comes down to a couple of different topics, but you know what, like, it's so interesting is even when I do the VR and the AR, and I've been doing a lot of AI, but then I've also been presenting a lot on social emotional learning. And like, there are so many, like, they're interconnected in so many different ways. And you can use some of those to kind of help students to build skills in those areas. And so the session I'm doing at Teach Better will be about, essential skills students need. And it's called Chart a New Course, Essential Skills for Tomorrow's World. And it connects into, looking at the World Economic Forum and the Job Skills Outlook, and like what those, key skills are that directly correlate to the 5 core competencies of SEL. And then for a while, and this is, for probably the first 3 or 4 years that I was doing presentations at conferences, I was always like, here's this tool, but then they disappear, or not everybody can use them at their schools, or, you can't use them at elementary levels. And so I've totally shifted that to be, okay, here are some methods. Now that you've got the methods that you can use, now what are the tools that facilitate that? Hey, guess what? We're fully virtual again. Okay, project-based learning is great for that because you don't have to be in the same physical space. It's better if you are because you can interact with kids, but you don't have to be. So now that wow, we're not together, how do you collaborate? How do you communicate? How do you get students to develop these skills in self-awareness or social awareness? And so I've kind of transitioned from the look at the tools and going to, here are some methods. And then now let's look at some different tools to facilitate those, because in the process, if you take all the tech away, what are you going to do if you're so reliant on it? And so we need that balance and always focusing on purpose. So my session, I try to give a variety of things. And again, lots of options to choose from, but that would work across the board for elementary or even ideas for higher education too.
Which I think is really important because some beautiful part of these spotlights that we're able to do, we started them in July and we're really continuing them through September. So people can choose strategically what they choose as their sessions while they're at the Teach Better conference. I want to make sure our audience kind of has those tools to say some reflection questions, ask those and say, am I the right person for this session? Am I going to be able to take away something valuable? I think really emphasizing that this is a perfect session for somebody K-12 is a great reflective question. Any other strategies or questions that you might challenge our audience to consider to fully understand if this is the right session for them to dive into?
Yeah, when it comes to anything, I always tell people, think about, especially now at the beginning of the school year and even mid-October, still in the beginning of the school year, so we've got a long way to go. I think about, and in the summer, you go to conferences, and there's so many choices. You're like, what do I start with? So I always think, okay, what is something that I did last year in my classroom that really didn't go well? Or what is an issue that I noticed, like student engagement was down, or, the students, I didn't have opportunities for them to collaborate. So what is something that didn't go very well? What is something that I've had on my list, I just didn't get to? Okay, so there's another idea. Or if you've seen, because you've been in Twitter chats or you've gone to other conferences and there's a topic that's interesting to you, like maybe it's augmented virtual reality, because even in my session, that I'm going to do there, I do add in a couple of those tools that are useful for the AR and VR. So because the students, they need to understand how these emerging technologies are working, because they very well might be using them in whatever they do, even in education, because they're learning, maybe they're going to learn in the metaverse. So they got to learn how to interact and build those skills, whether they're in a physical classroom or they're in the metaverse, for example. So, just figure out like, what is something that would be an area that like, I need some help with this. Or maybe it's a presenter, a friend that you've known and you've never met in person, and you've read something they've written, or you've seen part of a presentation, but you haven't had a chance to be there in that physical space with them. That's another great choice. I mean, I know that I go through and I look, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've known this person for 5 years. I've never met them in person. I want to go, even if I can't go the whole session, that law of 2 feet, kind of get up and walk around, just focusing on some of those things. And even just for this school year, what are you noticing about your classroom now with your students? Is there something that you think like, oh, I have this lesson coming up and I'm so tired of teaching it because like it's a difficult concept, or even I get bored? Look at the schedule and see, is something pop out that like, oh, that might be a really good idea that will even help me to kind of boost my own engagement. And we know we all have those things, because you just like, oh, conjugating verbs or something. No, I'm kidding. I actually love conjugating verbs, but just a few ideas.
I love that. I know that this is going to be such a good taste for our audience to get a feel for how you are as a educator and what they can take away from this session. Before we kind of wrap up and everybody here adds your session to their schedule over on Sketch, which again, all of you have access to over at teachbetterconference.com. Tell us a little bit about why you wanted to share this information, or share your voice in general at Teach Better Conference 2022. Would you mind giving us some insight about why this was the conference you wanted to attend?
No. Well, when I came to it a couple of years ago, it was awesome. The people that were there, and some of which, again, like I've known you for 5 years, and getting to be there in that space, but just the types of sessions that are offered, the focus on, the learning and the students, like there's so many things that are offered in this conference. But for me to actually put in a proposal to present, it's because I want to learn from the people that are in the room that come to it, because I always do. But two, because I'd like to share what we're doing, because there are so many things. And I wrote about it in one of the books, like things I wish I knew. And I've said it even just this past weekend, like, I wish I knew that it was okay for students to make a little bit of noise and to be social in learning, or that we need to connect our students with other classrooms and to take some risk. And it's okay to not know all the answers. And I really like the opportunity to share some of those stories, because it makes you vulnerable. But for some people, they might be thinking like, yeah, like I said, I don't know if I can do that because I'm a second grade teacher, or I teach social studies, or like I can't do VR and math. Let me tell you, you can. And if we could have back when I had geometry, I would have done way better than I did. So I just like the opportunity when I have it to just share, these are my challenges. I tried this. It didn't go very well. I asked the students, and here's the ideas, and this is what it looked like. And then also invite the, people that are there to share their experiences too, because I don't want it to be just a sit and get. I want to say, hey, who has done this? And then, all right, you, how did you use this? Or what did you notice about it? And then kind of tie it all together. So.
Rachelle, I'm so excited that you are going to be a part of Teach Better Conference 2022. It was so fun to have you a part of 2019, and this is just going to be even better. Us all finally being back in the same space, just enjoying the networking, the socializing, and kind of everything in between. So if you guys are just popping in right now, please, you have a number of to-do lists and action items from this live, but they're all very easy. One is you definitely have to go follow Rachelle Dené Poth over on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. Go find her. She has so much insight that she shares, and she definitely is an educator that you're going to want to connect with. And then also make sure you get your ticket. If you're waiting on your administrator to pull the trigger, we're in those final weeks where we're going to unfortunately need to close it up so we can enjoy the conference all together. So please make sure you go grab your ticket and see the full lineup over at teachbetterconference.com. Rachelle, thank you so much for being live with us and sharing your insight here. I'm so excited to see you in just a few weeks.
I know. And I can't believe that it's been 3 years since the first one, but that whole time worked. So this is the time. You have to go. It's a great conference. If you're thinking about it, just do it. Just sign up and do it, and we'll see you there.
I love it. Just do it. We'll see you there.
So right now, I want to know if you're ready to teach better.
That's the whole mission of this weekend.
Just being here